Hello, hello. Hi, greetings, grand rise, great day. All right, a little bit of sound to start, some bells. So today's video is going to be about the deities of Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Day if you're celebrating. So the bowl and the bell is a great start to today's video because the beginning of this is touching a little bit magic and the magic of the holidays. And so we begin with the bells. So you've heard during this time of year, a lot of bells are used, a lot of sound, a lot of singing, caroling. We have harps, accordions, harmonicas, drums. You'll see a lot of vibrational influence at this time of year, almost more than any other time of year. My theory is, and my guess is this will be affirmed when I do a little bit more research, that it pertains to the solstice and the energy within, and that it can create. And depending on what part of the world you're on, but it seems to be specifically for the winter time, the winter energy, to kind of break energy as well, bring attention to something. Bells can be used, also singing, caroling, and the energy of bringing in the new year, new energy, or the end of winter, because it's the beginning of winter, but as it's the beginning of winter, the days start getting brighter, which we've talked about. Then we talk about a little bit Santa and gifts. Okay, so I wanted to read about. Okay, so it's a little bit out of the Sibyl's Oraculum, which is a tarot deck. Also, there's tons of information in here as well on some of the Sibyls, but I specifically wanted to bring up, because I've mentioned this before, that I had read somewhere that there was a deity that flew around and gave gifts. So is it in here? Is it in here, or is it? Wait, do I already have it pulled up? No, I do not. Okay. I think I have confused. Yes. Okay. Hold on. So Santa is said to bring gifts at Christmas time. Well, I did a little research this morning. This is what we're going to get into. And what I found is the deities of Christmas. And I believe it is the very last one. But there's a goddess that flies around and gives gifts, aka a witch, at Christmas time. And I believe I found it this morning. Yes. La Befana. Oh, we can look her up in the goddess, in the Encyclopedia of Spirits. La Befana. This character, and we're going to go into this in a moment, but I wanted to relate this specifically to Santa Claus. This character from Italian folklore is similar to St. Nicholas in that she flies around delivering candy to well-behaved children. In early January, she is depicted as an old woman on a broomstick wearing a black shawl. So here again, we get the demonization of a what I consider a civil goddess, feminine example of magic. And this time of year, they literally said, similar to St. Nicholas, becoming like the wicked witch with the, black cloak floating around on a broomstick, when this is the original story. Okay, the next part. So Santa is also given the red and white. Well, mushrooms, magic mushrooms, there's a psilocybin type magic mushroom that is red and white. And the theory is that was the original Christmas ornament. Not the theory, there is proof that that was the original Christmas ornament. And there are stories about the golden goose is related to the golden egg, which is actually the golden mushroom, because there's golden caps that also grow at this time of year. And you'll see this also repeated at Easter time. So those are other forms of magic that are related to this time of year. Of course, gifts, which was predominantly food before, but also sound, music, candy. We'll get into that one. And then the minds. So mind, along with the sounds, there is like the spiritual aspect, which, and the mushrooms kind of go with the mind magic, the theory of creation, what we can create within our own families, for ourselves, and within the community. Okay, and then sugar. This is an interesting one. I hadn't really thought about this one. So sugar, which on a health relation, we know that sugar can influence mood. So a little bit of sugar will kind of like brighten your mood and pick you up, but too much sugar can overwhelm and actually start to depress the system. So we do see a lot of sugar happening during this time of year. So it could be a little bit of both, because in our culture, and I'm talking about like the American culture of Christmas is family. And we know like mental health wise, we'll see a lot of more depression come in this time of year. Well, and this is kind of like the mind magic in not an awesome way, where so alcohol is sugar, and there's sugar, which is, we're finding it everywhere right now, like cakes, cookies, and pies, and just so many chocolates, and it's just a very popular thing. I gave sugar for Christmas. I did. And I got some sugar. And so with our culture, there's like a fine line at this time of year when it comes to mental health. And then there seems to be a push on food as well, right? Well, because people become conscious of those who need food, but also when it comes to family. And there is a possibility, this is my theory, that with too much sugar, it like impresses the part that may be unconsciously depressed to bring that upsurge of depression, because then what happens is like we buy things and we tend to be a little bit more, what is the word? Impulsive. Okay. Just a theory. I mean, and sugar makes us that way anyways, like any time of year. But I also noticed like this time of year, starting at Halloween, right? So that's right when we start going into fall and into like the darkness on this side of the planet. the darkness of winter. So I wonder if that's might actually be like a psychological part to push us into this part of the year as far as pushing out the sugar. Just a theory. And that goes with the magic of Christmas, because can be an up part. So I wanted to know about the different goddesses of Christmas or this time of year, because it's not just Christmas, it's Yule. It's also in the religions that follow the moon. It is, I think I need to look this up, but we were in Hanukkah and I think Ramadan. I don't know about Ramadan, but I know we were in Hanukkah. But those can fall at different times of the year because those religions follow the moon over the sun. Now, so deities of the winter solstice. The first, so Yule and the solstice. I'm a big fan of the solstice because, and I think like natural witches and Sibylias and wizards will be attracted to the solstices and the equinoxes without on purpose. Because also it relates to the seasons, which I mentioned before, starts with SEA, and I think that goes back to water and the energy of feminine. Okay, so we have Alcyone, which is Greek, and Alcyone is the kingfisher goddess. She nests every winter for 2 weeks, and while she does, the wild seas become calm and peaceful. Alcyone is also one of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. So there's that link too, where we have the Pleiades and Orion, because, they're very close to each other. Okay. This one is really fun. All right. Amaterasu. I hope I'm saying correctly. Japan. In feudal Japan, worshippers celebrated the return of Aramatsu, the sun goddess, who slept in a cold, remote cave. When the other gods woke her with a loud celebration, she looked out of the cave and saw an image of herself in a mirror. The other gods convinced her to emerge from her seclusion and return sunlight to the universe, according to Mark Cartwright's An Ancient History Encyclopedia. She blocked herself in a cave following an argument with Susanoo, when he surprised the goddess with a monstrous flayed horse when she was quietly weaving in her palace with her younger sister, Wakahiromi. As a consequence of Amaratsu's disappearance, the world was cast into total darkness, and evil spirits ran riot over the earth. The gods tried all manner of ways to persuade the peeved goddess to leave the cave. Sibyls are known for being in caves. Okay. On the advice of Omohi Kane, roosters were sent outside the cave in the hopes their crows would make the goddess think that dawn had come. I believe there's another goddess with a similar story. There's a similar story with Oshun, because when she left, she'd taken all the waters with her and the honey. Okay, next deity is Baldur, which is Norse and is associated with the legend of mistletoe. His mother, this is the male deity, Frigga, honored Baldur. This is an interesting one. It's a little confusing, and this is where I wonder if it got mistaught, because anyhow, or rewritten. Okay. This was her son. She honored him by making a promise. She forgot. She overlooked the mistletoe plant. And then Loki, the trickster, took advantage of the opportunity and fooled Baldur's brother into taking Baldur's life, but then was restored back to life. Oh, he used a spear of mistletoe. I'll have to look into that story. Interesting. And it's Norse. I don't know a lot about a Norse. I guess that's a Celtic. Okay. Then the next deity is Bonadia, which is Roman. The fertility goddess is worshipped in secret temples. In the Adventuring Heel in Rome, this relates back to the Sibyl goddesses of Rome. And only women were permitted to attend her rites. Her annual festival was held early in December. High-ranking women would gather at the house of Rome's most prominent magistrates, the Pontifu Maximus. While there, the magistrate's wife led secret rituals at which men were forbidden. It was even prohibited to discuss men or anything masculine at the ritual. So there's a hint as to some of the ancient rituals and the ancient ways of Rome/Italy, which is now, one of the leaders of theology. Okay. The next one, and this is interesting because I was watching a reading on YouTube this morning, and this deity came up. So, and I had taken a picture before looking this up, and this came up, so I thought that was cool. Kalalia or Kalaliach Behir, which is Celtic, Scotland. And Scotland is supposedly named after the great granddaughter of Akhenaten, the Terra of Scata. Okay. She is also called Biera, the queen of winter. She is the hag aspect of the triple goddess and rules the dark days between I always say this wrong. Samhain. I'm not saying it right. I did a video on this. I forgot how to pronounce it correctly. And Beltane. She appears in the late fall as the earth is dying and is known as the bringer of storms, which sounds a little bit like Oya, because Oya is also the bringer of storms and can represent both life and death, cross between both worlds. She is typically portrayed as a one-eyed old woman with bad teeth and matted hair. Mythologist Joseph Campbell says that in Scotland, she was known as Calilach Bear, while along the Irish coast, she appears as Calile Beare. And I wonder if there's some relation to like Kalima, because it's in the same. Demeter, we know a lot about Demeter, and the story between the underworlds and the changes of the seasons. The Dark Mother in winter. She's abducted by Hades and Persephone, her daughter, and she comes. Demeter causes the seasons, is one of the stories, right? Because she goes back and forth. Okay, Dionysus, a festival called Brumalia, was held every December in honor of Dionysus. Fermented grape wine even proves how popular the Romans adopted it as well, and as Bacchus. And so there's a continuation of Baal and Baak. And I also think these were retold and rewritten. Oh, gosh darn it. Where were we? Oh. Okay. Kalilach Bear, before we move on. So, and this is why I grabbed the Sibyl's Oraculum, because the word hag. All right. So in the Sibyl's Oraculum, if you end up getting this deck or somehow come across this book, this is on page 4. And she talks about the legacy of the Sibyls is still with us, even if the symbols and terminology related to those sacred women and the goddesses have been desecrated or repurposed to suit the narratives of the victors. For example, the English word hag originally just meant serpent, but is now a pejorative for a bad witch or a woman who is not sexually desirable. Like they said, this one, Khaled Bier, in the picture of the video I watched this morning, she's beautiful and probably is beautiful or has beautiful aspects, right? But in this, she's depicted as an old hag. And so I wanted to re-educate about the word hag. Okay. Serpent, and this is where we get like, the serpent. You know how I feel about that first part of the Bible if you've watched my other videos where it talks about Eve is below all creatures on her belly. Okay. Which are women designed to men, usually because she's old or ugly, which I just said. A synonym for hag is a gargon, which is related to Medusa. A gorgon. Okay. The connotations is association of the fear and revulsion towards the dark, the warrior or crone aspect of the goddess, and occult knowledge, that we've learned. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that when it came to Khaled Bier. Okay, Demeter, Dionysus, Frau Holle, Norse. This is where we get like holly tree. Frau Holle appears in many different forms in Scandinavian mythology and legend. She is associated with both the evergreen plants of the Yule season and with snowfall, which is said to be her shaking out her feathery mattresses. Okay, Frigga. Most people know the story of Frigga, which we just kind of talked about. They're reverting back to Baldur. Oh, okay. So here's the story. So she honored her son Baldur by asking all of nature not to harm him, but in her haste overlooked the mistletoe plant. Okay, here we go. Loki fooled Baldur's blind into killing him with the spear of mistletoe, but Odin later restored him to life. As thanks, Frigga declared that mistletoe must be regarded as a plant of love rather than death. And I actually saw some videos on YouTube where in other countries, mistletoe is absolutely used for healing. And there are some old ancient stories. Hey, Merry Christmas. Some old ancient stories of mistletoe being a healer, a cures-all. Stories that it cures cancer, you know how it goes. Okay. Hodor, Norse, sometimes called Hod, was the twin brother of Baldur. Oh, okay. And the Norse god of darkness and winter. He also appeared to be blind and appears to a few times in the Norse skaldic poetry for killing his brother. So isn't it interesting? Very similar to our story of Cain and Abel, right? The difference is that the sun is restored, which does kind of come back to Christmas. Okay. Holly King, British and Celtic. The Holly King is a figure found in British tales and folklore. He's similar to the Green Man and archetypes of the forest. In modern, I don't like saying pagan religion anymore. I don't have anything against people who believe in multi-deities. I don't like the association of something bad going with pagan because it means more than one deity. It doesn't mean like anti the one deity. Anyhow, in modern pagan religion, which is written here, Holly King battles the Oak King for supremacy throughout the year and winter solstice, and the Holly King is defeated. Oh, I just got a picture. Okay. And then Horus. So today is supposed to be Horus's birthday. And I also believe it can be related to Wajet's birthday, which is also in the oraculum. Let's see. I think, well, Osiris. Anyhow, Horus. Most people know about Horus. La Befana, which I just talked about, the witch who flies around. The Lord of Misrule, which is British and relates to Saturnalia, which is also can go back to Santa Claus and the red and the white. But ultimately, most of these things are allegory and go back to our own capabilities within our bodies. And a little bit of this I talk about in our, that's on Patreon. Never mind. Okay, Mithras, which is Roman. Mithras was celebrated as a part of the mystery religion in ancient Rome, a sun god, and then Odin, who is related to, this is where we get a lot of the modern looking Santa Claus. Supposedly comes from Odin because of the Yule time. He used to just bestow gifts. He was riding a magical flying horse across the sky. And he also, was very magical. Okay. So, and Saturn. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry, but before we go, Saturn is a deity. And if you go way back, all of the, well, I have found some places that the deities are, the planets were originally feminine, and that Saturn was the original dark mother, okay, in that concept. So Saturnalia, which goes to the agricultural god, can also be related to the corn goddess of some of the indigenous American religions. And what else was I going to say about Saturnalia? Well, it's been really demonized, but it wasn't. It was more of kind of what I was saying about the mushrooms and the singing, and there were rituals happening, and there still are rituals happening, and there still is an energetic, as all seasons are, but there's a unique energetics, especially in the solstices. Okay. Saturn rolls in honor of their agricultural son. Saturn's roles reversed. And the slave, and they would be able to like switch. I've heard different things about Saturnalia. They chase women around. Anyways, I'm not going into that. And then Spider Woman, which is Hopi. Soyal is the Hopi festival and the winter solstice. It honors the Spider Woman and the Hawk Maiden and celebrates the sun victory over winter's darkness, which is solstice, which is pretty cool. Okay, now before I get off the live, so I looked up the goddess that also relates to Christmas time, and that came up in the reading I was watching this morning, which is Kalaliach Beher. Well, I looked in my Encyclopedia of Spirits for reference, and she's not in here. Okay, but who is in here? I found fascinating. So I want to share with you guys because And a lot of the videos that I've shared on YouTube, and I talk about the Sibyls and the goddesses, and the reason why I interconnect them is not just from research, but from all the research. When you start looking up different deities, you really start seeing a lot of similarities between other deities, especially the feminine ones. And so my theory is that there was kind of one in the beginning or one in each culture, and then as time has passed by, they get kind of like retaught about, or they get new characteristics depending on like where we're at mentally and emotionally and spiritually, blah blah blah. Okay, so what I found, excuse me, now this is I'm going to put the name up first because I'm going to try my best. Let's see this one up here. Okay. Cha'al Chihit Liku. Chat Lehit Liku. It's probably not even close. Right. Probably much prettier. She of the jade skirt. Origins, Aztec. She is a queen of rivers, lakes, and standing still waters, which is similar to Oshun. The meaning of her name refers to a jade skirt, a metaphor for shining expanses of still water. Without this deity, there is no irrigation. She presides over all agriculture and was especially associated with cotton, a plant with huge moisture requirements for healthy growth. So similar to Oshun again, where without Oshun, there was no water and there was no honey. Okay. Is that right? I think that was it. Yeah, no water. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Hi. Is that who it might be? Are you who I think you might be? Okay. So this deity provides for people, but also a goddess of destruction. In Nahuatl Aztec myth, she was the regent of the previous world known as the Four Water, destroyed by flooding. I wonder if that's in the Popol Vuh. I think it is. And she also presides over amniotic fluids, the water in the as you're growing. Okay, interesting. She is a goddess of human as well as agricultural fertility. The pre-Christian Aztecs possessed birth rituals involving baptism, in which this deity played a prominent presiding role. See, this is also kind of showing how the feminine was usurped in religion. Okay, manifestation. This is how she can appear. A woman whose face is decorated with a pair of short black lines. I knew they were going to say this. Running vertically down her lower cheeks. She wears a headband studded with balls of cotton. That's so cool. Her skirt is adorned. Okay, this makes sense. Her skirt is adorned with jade, and she often wears a tasseled shawl. Attributes, an ear of maize, corn, or corn cobs. So she could also maybe relate to the corn goddess. Okay. Her consort is talok. Plants are corn, cotton, and prickly pears. If you don't know what prickly pears are, they're the little, they look like little baby cactuses that grow on, I can't remember what type of cactuses are, but their leaves are flat and big, and then they have little pricks coming off of it. Those will grow prickly pears. They're purple. So that could also kind of, purple relates to some of the African deities. One of them. Oh yeah, who I mentioned. Okay. Colors, various shades of jade and turquoise. Minerals are jade and turquoise. So that also tells us something that, like the jade and turquoise, it's not just Eastern, it relates to the American indigenous as well. And both like North America and South America. Okay. And then the last thing of the day, which is awesome exciting, is I'm going to read the day out of the 365 goddesses. Because we have, Hertha, like we do Hearth. So today is December 25th. Christmas Yule in various locations, and Hertha. And this is where we get like the hearth of the house, fire. Okay. So Hertha, rebirth, kinship, health, longevity, tradition. Symbols are dormant trees and snow. About her. In ancient times, on this day, people venerated Hertha, the Teutonic goddess of fertility, domesticated animals, magic, and nature. In German tradition, Hertha descended through the smoke of any fire today and brought gifts much like an early Santa Claus. Again, another female. Giving her solar associations too. It's kind of where I related it to. Well, this says solar, but I relate that a little bit to Saturn. Okay. Her connection to nature has survived in the name for our planet Earth. And also you will find that there is, oh, goodness, that kind of scared me. There's a Sybil named Earthwren. Okay, so there's that too. And if you move the letters around, you almost have Athena and Hertha. Okay, so things you can do today if you don't already do them or not do. Yule takes its designation from a Celtic word meaning wheel, representing the turning of time's wheel back towards the sun. The day's getting brighter. In early times, the festival included parties for various sun gods and goddesses. It eventually was translated into the celebration of today, Christ's birth. A light source or burning incense can symbolize Hertha's presence today. Besides this, look to the world's traditions for magical ways of making your celebration special. For example, Swedes eat a rice pudding with one lucky almond. Whoever gets the nut receives good fortune. Russians toss grain into people's homes for providence as they carol. Armenians make a wish on the Yule log when it's ignited, and sometimes make divinations by cinder patterns made afterwards. Bohemians cut apples in half. If there's a perfect star in the center and it has plump seeds, it portends joy and good health. Finally, kiss someone under the mistletoe for a long, happy relationship. So you can see also the feminine relation and even these little things people do already. And where was the one thing I was going to comment on? Oh, these are forms of divination, even though divination through like oracle, through intuition, using nature. Okay. All right. So that's my share for today. Please check out my Patreon. There, I've uploaded a video recently, so I'm doing a bit more on exposing certain spells and ways to undo them. And I did another video on intuitive muscle healing. So if you'd like to check out my Patreon, which I will post that in the description box afterwards. All right. Until next time, YouTube folks and others, Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Solstice, and may you have a well and healthy, peaceful as possible, and prosperous as possible New Year. All right, until next time. Oh, and the bells before we go. There's the all right.